This week on the show, remembering Nora Ephron.
Fashion choices, tights over paint.
And Tim and Tina report from Vidcon. All this and more on Behind the Video, episode number 9. This episode of Behind the Video is brought to you by the Independent Media Network. The Independent Media Network helps journalists and content creators create their own jobs by building sustainable online businesses. If you're an unemployed or underemployed journalist or content creator, visit imnct.com for more information. Hey everybody, welcome back to Behind the Video, episode number 9. We are back once again, and we've got the regular crew with us today. Goldie Chan is dialing in from Los Angeles, California. How you doing, Goldie?
I'm doing great, thanks.
And we're saving bandwidth today because Tim Street is joining us from, I believe, from Vidcon. Is that where he's at?
Yeah, I'm down at Vidcon with Tina Cesa Ward, and
we fit both of you in one window.
Yes.
There you go. We're actually we're coming in via the Verizon MiFi card.
Wow.
So that'll be $10 a gig.
If only they paid us $10 a gig, we would gladly accept it. So. Well, thank you for dialing in from the conference. And Tim and Tina, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's going on there and what you've seen that's interesting.
Sure. Today's industry day, so we're just getting started. Last night there was a VIP party, kind of a pre-party that Tube Filter did, and they announced the streamings are going to be in February. Drew Baldwin flew in on a helicopter and landed outside this indoor go-kart park where we had a crazy fun time, lots of go-kart racing going on in a party. And today's industry day, so we're going to hear from some of the top companies that are making money. And one of the most surprising things to me here is that Disney is actually a sponsor of VidCon. So that tells you that people are now paying attention to these YouTubers. So that's pretty exciting. Tina, what have you seen?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing stuff. It hasn't, obviously I was at the same party. So, I'm seeing everybody I normally see, which is nice, and I look forward to seeing other people. I have a panel at 11, and, we'll see what happens. It's always fun to be here.
Tim Shea said that he saw more YouTube shirts than Mickey Mouse shirts, and we're right across the street from Disneyland. Yeah. So that tells you what's going on here.
That tells you there's quite a few people there. One thing I've noticed on my own tiny little minuscule YouTube channel is that my revenues have gone up quite a bit recently. And Tina, are you seeing an uptick? You've been doing web video for quite a while now and doing some really great content. Are you seeing an uptick in revenue from some of your online shows that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think with anyone but me, we've always done fairly well. Sometimes it's oftentimes been better revenue than Blip and kind of competitive with our Hulu revenue, actually. And then, I've noticed certainly with Good People in Love that I'm getting better ads. So that's always good. So I've definitely seen certainly a lot more ads and a lot better and not just the usual, with those text ads on there. And so, definitely the revenue seems to be up a little bit, but I always feel like it's an ebb and flow. Like, next month it'll be nothing, and who knows. But I mean, I had heard that the J months are always bad for ad revenue.
well, and we've got 2 of them back to back here, so exactly. It's a scary time.
It's not so bad then right now.
and what would your advice be to someone starting out who's got a great concept and they want to get it seen and they want to maybe make a little bit of revenue? I've always been fond of Blip.tv for some of my startups and whatnot. But lately, YouTube has been getting a lot more aggressive in the revenue sharing, and that was something Blip really did quite well. What do you recommend? Get them on everything? Limit it to 1 or 2?
I think you have to be everywhere you can be. I mean, and that's kind of the great thing about Blip is that you can, put all your videos up on Blip and then just shoot them over to YouTube, and then all your numbers can just be over on Blip, and so you don't have to, go and add your numbers from all your different sites. So that's one great thing about Blip. I definitely. I feel like YouTube is becoming even more essential to be on. Even more so, I'm finding that I'm sending direct links more to my YouTube page than I had been to my Blip page, because I feel like it's really becoming a little more essential, and also the ad revenue is better. And they also give you a little bit more to, I feel like, push it and advertise it. I was happy to see that they they've started to kind of branch out and embrace, hey, you guys are what makes money for us. So we need to find ways to help you advertise. And they're doing it now with, you can push your video out onto other people's videos, that new advertising they have, which we are trying with Anyone But Me, although I feel bad because it's like we have a whole episode for somebody's, and I was like, oh, I didn't know it was going to run a whole episode ad.
Oh, so it actually embeds the entire ad beforehand. Okay,
yeah.
Right.
So it only ran a week. Hopefully people don't hate us, but I'm sure they all skipped it. So.
And is that expensive to do for someone that's looking to do something like that?
Well, you can do it in different, however much you want to spend. Same thing with Facebook, which I've been trying to, experiment with the Facebook ads. So you can just put in whatever amount of money you want to spend. You can be, $30 to $100 to $500 to whatever. And we tried a low amount, and just to see if we are getting anything, which I did with Facebook too, to see how much that advertising really does help push video. And on Facebook, I did find that I got an uptick in views for Good People in Love when I used their ads.
Well, that's good to know. That's good. Some good tips there for some of our content creators who are trying to tie everything together. And one thing we like to do on the show, Tina, is tie in what the big guys and gals are doing over at the studio side of the world to how we can relate to that to online video. And we always go through the box office charts. And this week we've got a couple movies to talk about. Snow White and the Huntsman hangs on to the top 5 position with $137 million in ticket sales so far. $8 million this past week. Prometheus. Hey Tim, did you ever get to see Prometheus?
No, I didn't get to see it, and people are saying it's a dog, so it's like I don't know that I'm going.
I know, I want to see it too.
And I feel bad. And I feel bad too. See, Tim actually sequestered himself. We actually censored ourselves. So we wouldn't talk about Prometheus before it came out.
And now I don't care.
Now he doesn't care.
Oh, there's apparently a Funny or Die video out that's just a bunch of audience members talking about how the movie makes sense.
So, oh really? And what? How does it make sense?
It doesn't. I think that's the point.
It's do a really cool lead and then just repeat the formula. So that's what happened there. Number 3, I'm actually intrigued about this, and I saw a really funny mashup of this on my Facebook from a lot of people. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, $16.3 million. Obviously a riveting historical documentary. So. I guess what is this? Abe Lincoln goes out and kills vampires with an axe. Is that the premise?
Yeah, it's a different take on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's just repackaging and recasting with Abraham Lincoln in the lead.
And it was a book, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it's part of the mashup, books like the Jane, I think it was the Jane Austen ones that he did too. They're like those take classicals and mash them up with zombies.
That's good. Well, zombies and vampires always seem to work. So, and there was a funny Facebook post that was going around. My friends were, I guess, the guy from Twilight getting chased through the woods by an axe-wielding Abraham Lincoln. So, I would probably pay to see that. But I think I'll wait for video on the original here. So we'll hold out for the sequel. Madagascar 3 is in at number 2, and let's see if we can guess. Who's at number 1, given the ability of this studio to print money?
Is it one of the sponsors of Vidcon?
I don't know. Could that be Pixar?
Well, Disney owns Pixar, so there you go.
Yep.
There you go. So Brave, which we talked a lot about last week, especially given there was some criticism over the female character on that show, came in at number 1, $66 million. It seems like a good time of the year where the J months might be bad for online video. They are very good, apparently, for kids, because June and July especially are no school months for many people around the United States. So the kids' movies are leading the charge. Another piece of news related to all this is that the Avengers, which I know Goldie was really into the Avengers, they have crossed the $600 million club, achieving only what James Cameron has done before, according to E! Online. They are well beyond that. I think they're going to become a billion-dollar franchise here before it's too late. And I would imagine costume merchandise is not included in that, Goldie, right?
No, definitely not.
So the Avengers continues to clean up. Some sad news. I don't know if either of you have ever met her. I haven't, but I certainly enjoyed her movies. Was Nora Ephron, who passed away, I believe, about a day or two ago. She was the writer and director behind Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, Julie and Julia. And she was 71. Tina, have you? You're a screenwriter too, right? I mean,
yeah.
What's your thoughts on her passing?
You know, I was really sad. I feel like there's not a huge amount of writer-directors that have like a good distinct voice, and I feel like she definitely had it, especially a female writer-director. So you know, I was very sad.
And witty and very fun to listen to. I was watching some videos of her just to learn more about her, and she was always pretty quick-witted, and you know, it also got me looking at the You've Got Mail guy. You know, there was this guy that AOL had working in their engineering department who had recorded the You've Got Mail sound, and his name is Elwood Edwards, and this poor guy has never seen a dime of royalties probably from the number of times his little voice has been played across AOL computers and their users throughout the course of that, but at least he got the nod from her movie. So, but in happier news, speaking of James Cameron, Avatar 2, 3, and 4 may be shot all at once, according to Movie Fanatic, and Sigourney Weaver will be returning, it looks like. So, Goldie, what do you feel about Avatar? Are you a fan of the first one, and are you looking forward to these?
I actually really did like Avatar. I'm not an Avatar nuthead. I didn't go dressed all in blue in my leotard, but I actually know someone who did, which is kind of funny.
So they did the leotard as opposed to painting themselves blue, or did they do a little bit of both?
They did a little bit of both, because you can't actually get a full body. Well, I guess you could get a full body leotard, but they got the shiny blue fabric, and they did the hair, and they did the contacts and everything, and so they got really immersed in the world of Avatar. So I'm thinking for Avatar 2, 3, and 4, they might just break that costume out again and do that again.
So you will likely be one of the. Now, would you then dress as one of the corporate raiders, or perhaps one of the Marines or something? Like what would your preferred outfit be?
You know, I'm going to dress like Sigourney Weaver and wear a Stanford sweatshirt and just leave it at that.
That's how to keep it real. So
nice.
Yeah, and I have a friend in college who learned that was it the temper paint doesn't breathe well when he painted himself all red from some school spirit week. So that'll land you in the hospital. So the tights are better than the paint. Just keep that in mind. So let's talk about some TV. You know, it does still exist. Tim and Tina, did you guys watch any television this week? It's all reruns.
Well, we were watching The Bachelorette because
we were. You.
Well, Tim admits to watching The Bachelorette. What did you think of The Bachelorette this week, Tim? Okay, well, you didn't, but guess what? A lot of people did. It actually ranked in at number 9 on our list of broadcast shows topping the Nielsen ratings this week. Two Broke Girls actually CBS, if they don't do anything new and just run repeats, they will clean up, because they once again are dominating the top 10 with repeats. Two Broke Girls, which actually is a pretty funny show. I watched that with my wife. NCIS 60 Minutes, NCIS Los Angeles, and The Big Bang Theory, all in the 8 to 4 positions. Number 3, America's Got Talent, came in for NBC, did pretty well, and of course the NBA Finals on ABC took the top 3 positions this week. And in cable, American Pickers at number 9, Dallas returning for its second week at number 8, so still holding pretty strong. Wrestling doing quite well. Rizzoli and Isles number 4, Pawn Stars at 2 and 3, and Good Luck Charlie on the Disney Channel at number 1. I'm not familiar with that show. I don't know if either of you all are.
That's new on the charts.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so, it's a Disney show about a kid, I think, who just gets advice from his family. So that's why they call him Good Luck Charlie. So he's always kind of running into scrapes and things like that. And why I know so much about Disney Channel shows is
well, it's good. You know, they market quite well, and it's what's interesting is they know how online their audience is, and if you go to most of their show pages, there's stuff to kind of suck you in, games and other things that you know, some of the network shows aimed at older audiences don't do.
Do they have any of those Google Glasses yet for any of their shows?
They don't, but apparently somebody got some Google glasses and then decided to jump out of an airplane this week. And Goldie, you were pretty excited about that.
Yes. So if anyone was in San Francisco this past week and they saw somebody literally propel themselves out of the sky and onto Moscone Center, it's pretty nifty if you watch it, but you get their point of view because they were wearing the Google glasses and they actually were in a live Google Hangout while they were going parachuting down. And it's really fun if you watch the whole video because then they hand it off to guys on bikers who are also wearing the Google glasses, so you kind of see the whole, you can see the whole progression through pretty much a Google Hangout with just Google glasses. And you know, I think it's super fascinating, and it's if you're afraid of heights, it's maybe not the best video to watch.
Well, they certainly found a good use for making a real good product demonstration of this point of view thing. It's certainly a lot easier to wear a pair of glasses and maybe strap a GoPro to your head. So that's one selling point at least for that.
Well, Robert Scoble was sitting in the keynote when they announced it, and he got up and he ran to the table where they were selling them and bought a pair in advance. And they give him a little glass statue to hold on to, and I think he's like number 171 in line to get a pair of glasses.
Wow, and they're not cheap. $1,500. That's quite a. Now, granted, I just spent $3,000 on a MacBook Pro, but $1,500 for these glasses seems to be a little more than maybe a lot of people be willing to pay. But it seems like there's a lot of the Scobles in the world willing to give it a shot. I don't know about you, Goldie. Would you be willing to walk around in public with your Google glasses on, talking to them?
Only if I could bedazzle them first.
So okay, yeah. So you need to bedazzle them, put some bling on them, and they'll be off and running. Let me ask Tim and Tina, what kind of content creation opportunities are there for these? Are you thinking about, obviously $1,500 is a bit prohibitive for a lot of folks, but as we all know, it won't be long before you can pick up a pair at 7-Eleven or something. What do you think is going to work?
They're going to be really, really good for managing your recipes, because that's what people say. They're great for managing recipes, or at least that's what they said about the PC, right?
That's right. How about you, Tina? What do you think of these things?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use them for a show per se, but I think that it could definitely be like, your extra content, be very interesting to do, be an interesting like behind the scenes type of thing you can do. You put it on one of your stars and just have them walk around sets and show what's going on. So at $1,500, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go out.
I don't know. It could be fun to have like some stalker wear them. I'm always about having a stalker in some series. I like that.
You create a show around those you stalk, right? So
there you go.
I think for directors, it might get rid of this whole thing, right? You could actually just look at something now.
That's true. Yeah, if they can make those Google glasses like as an amalgamation with the Artemis app, that would be awesome.
There you go. So there could be a real money-making opportunity for you there. That I bet you that those 200 people that will own them will pay like $500 for that app. So go ahead and let it rip. See what happens. So let's move on to our Hulu briefly. Again, this is more deck shuffling. Pretty Little Liars up there. Hell's Kitchen. It's again intrigues me about Hulu. The stuff that doesn't ever make any of our Nielsen rating lists actually does quite well on the Hulu streams. Things like Hell's Kitchen and Pretty Little Liars and Jane by Design is on here. Tina, you put stuff on Hulu. What's the angle? How do you get people to watch something on Hulu? Because clearly it's more of a niche-y kind of audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us it's kind of, it has this certain cachet, obviously, to be on Hulu. So when anyone but me, when we got our deal to be on Hulu, it was great because we would just tell, you tell most people that know the internet and know where to find shows, they think of Hulu. So, it's great to be on there, I think, as an independent, series creator and producer. And I guess I'm not surprised that, like, the teen shows and everything do well, since that demographic watches more stuff online than anyone. I watch Pretty Little Liars, so I'm happy to see it's in the top there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great to be on there, and it's hard to wrangle a deal from them, but you can do it. It's a good place to be.
Is it hard because they're looking for a specific quality that they don't want to just put everything up?
I mean, when we got the deal, it was all about they don't want to do individual deals. they want to do like deals with Guru and take their whole catalog and stuff. They don't want to do independent creator deals. So they want a zillion deals out there. They just want to go to one company and say, give us all your videos, and that's that. So it's I don't know if they've changed in some ways or not. I doubt it, but yeah, it becomes hard for independents to get deals from them.
Well, a lot of independents are out on YouTube, of course, because they don't have to sign any kind of deal. Just upload and off you go. Number one on our YouTube charts this week is My Pet Monkey from Ray William Johnson. He's got the formula down, because whatever he puts up, he's making some bank on. He's got about 3 million views of that so far. Censorship Makes No Sense from a guy named Haiga something, I don't know, 2.6 million views.
That's Ryan Higa, Nigga Higa.
Oh, okay.
Ryan Higa, yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to mispronounce something here and use the wrong words, but his production quality is a lot lower than some of these other guys, but nevertheless doing pretty well with that, right? He doesn't use he doesn't have all the high-end production values here. He had somebody submitted some graphics to him and stuff, but what can you tell me about him, Goldie?
Well, he does a lot of Asian-related content, but really, so that's where his fan base originally started. But now he honestly just talks about a lot of random topics. So this one I actually saw. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched most of it, and this is just another one of his. He sometimes goes on rants, and then he intersperses the rants with, little funny animated things. And yeah, so this one is on censorship and why he really wishes that he could swear, but he can swear in context.
What's really funny with Ryan is that in his videos, he's way over the top and very animated, but in real life, he's very subdued, and he's a quiet kid, and he really turns it on when the camera comes on.
That's pretty funny how that works. One thing that I was noticing with this, and this is something that has kind of struck me about YouTube in general, is I remember it being beat into me in television production classes in college. The jump cut is like the cardinal sin of all production. Never, ever have a jump cut. And he does a lot of jump cuts, more so than the average
you're
YouTube.
Old school there, dude. Your newsroom or something.
Yeah. I know. It's just I can't bring myself to do jump cuts. I've had opportunities to do them, but I don't know. Tina, you don't do jump cuts, do you?
I don't, because I come from the same school you do. But it has become, the trend to do jump cuts, and they're very forgiven now. There's a lot of things that are forgiven now, so you can do them. But I'll stick to tradition, unless it calls for it in the story.
Right, unless the viewers demand it, and they might soon, because Tim, you're going to love this story, because you're in this business, as am I. 10 billion online video ads were played and basically distributed out to viewers in May, and that's according to TubeFilter, and it was a number that came from ComScore, and that's a pretty good movement here, Tim, right? 10 billion online video ads? I'm sure you had most of those, right?
Yeah, right. It seems that, it's a promising sign. It was much better than Nielsen's reported numbers that came out, where they really poo-pooed a lot of web video content, didn't count it. And didn't count any ads that were served on it as well. So that was really disheartening to me. But the Comcast stuff looks good, and Comcast has gone out there and they've got all the top YouTube channels, so they're paying attention to what the metrics are on YouTube. And so just looking at the conference here and seeing Disney sponsoring this conference, it tells me that this web video stuff, this is the third year of Vidcon, but it feels like it's arrived. And there are big companies here making investments. One of the other top videos on the YouTube chart this week was My Mail Order Bride by Smosh. Now, Smosh was represented by a company called Decca, but Decca just sold Smosh to another company called Alloy Digital. Decca was really concentrated on more female audience, whereas Alloy was going after a young audience, male and female, and so it made sense for the sale, but it sold for a good chunk of change. I don't know the exact number, but I want to say somewhere around $3 or $4 million,
wow.
Which is pretty nice for a web series.
And who would have thought 5 years ago we'd be seeing these kind of numbers, both for the producers, but also for some of these networks that are trying to aggregate a lot of that content. So it's pretty exciting for for folks. And there's actually some more opportunities coming up very soon here. And you know, podcasting is nothing new. We're doing one right now, as a matter of fact, and we're, you know, the means of producing them has changed over the years. But one of the things Apple has been doing is kind of been relegating podcasts and non, you know, studio content into its own little silo. And as people have been transitioning away from iTunes and onto their devices, it's been getting harder and harder to get stuff onto these things. And this week, Apple released their standalone podcast app ahead of iOS 6, and that's going to take podcasts, at least on the iOS device, out of iTunes and put them into its own standalone app. I did play with it a little bit. In fact, I made a how-to video on cttechjunkie.com, so you can check it out. But let me ask Goldie first. Goldie, you're a producer of content. Is this going to be good for you?
I mean, I think that it just depends on how you're creating your content, right? So anytime, I mean, there's always a million new apps that you can use, but is it actually relevant to the things that you're making? I think that's actually more important. For example, as Tina said, you know, she might not use Google Glasses to film her entire next season of whatever web series she's doing, but she might use it for behind-the-scenes content because that might be more appropriate. I think it's just a matter of what it's appropriate for and who your audience actually is, and do they want to see content of that quality, I guess.
And one of the things that I like about it, and I'd love to get Tim's take on how we monetize it, is within our independent media network here in Connecticut, we have some people doing online radio. And it's been really hard for them to, because remember, long form is really uncomfortable to watch on a computer. And we've been directing the people to start up their own podcasts, but getting the viewers who may not be into all this media technology that we're into, getting them to subscribe and download has been a real challenge. So be able to say, hey, take out your iPad, go here and search for this is a lot less steps. And Tim, how do we monetize this? What's the secret sauce to making money as a podcaster now that all the server stuff is helping?
Sure. I mean, there's always a cart before the horse, and you have to be careful about giving away free samples. I mean, I often talk about the ice cream store analogy. If you're going to open up an ice cream shop and give away free ice cream and expect that someday somebody would come along and buy your ice cream shop because you gave away the most free ice cream, it's just ludicrous. But yet, as web video creators, we do that all the time. And so you've really got to look for what that cash register is and how you're going to monetize. And I think podcasting is a great way to build an audience, but you still have to drive it to a sale, whether that sale is a sponsorship of your podcast or it's selling something like an ebook that has video in it. I think those are things to take a look at and see what your brand, the brand that you've created, has permission to do. Also, it depends on if people are going to use this new podcasting app. Are things easy to find? Is the search working out great? Because, you know, you stumble across a podcast that you like, or a friend of yours will go, hey, check out Marketing Over Coffee. There's these two guys. They talk about what's going on in SEO. They talk about what's going on with Google and how to get your rankings higher. And, you know, those are great, you know, that word of mouth marketing. But, again, you still it has to be easy to get to. And so hopefully this new app will do that.
And Tina, what do you do podcast distribution of your content, or do you mostly stick to streaming services that can attach advertising to the front end?
You know, I do a lot of streaming services, but I also have, you know, lately been looking into other avenues to help, you know, drive views and also to drive, you know, money to the shows.
Money's a good thing.
You know, yeah, and you know, I think looking at podcasts and using them as, you know, Tim says, use it to drive to, you know, more monetization of your videos is a great thing. I mean, I'm always really trying now to just look and see how can I make money. So I'm always looking at all avenues, and podcasts I've been interested in maybe doing as a connection to a show as well. So, you know, do like they did with you know, The Walking Dead on AMC, which I think is brilliant, and then they have Talking Dead after it. It's just a brilliant concept, and you can kind of do that with narrative shows and podcasts as well afterwards, and you know, look to see if you can monetize that.
So it looks like it's the right tool for the right job, right? I mean, and perhaps it could be an audience enhancement tool for you know, the Leo Laportes of the world. It's your main source of revenue, and for other folks, it might just be a snippet to get people to go to where you want them to go to. So that could work out.
And speaking of the right tool, we have to get into our session and sit in our chair.
Okay.
So we need to sign off here pretty quick.
Well, good. Why don't we wrap it here, because we're about 30 minutes in, and that's we wanted to time the show to the length of a commute. So we are pretty much at that point. So Tim, where can people find you?
Just Google me, Tim Street.
And how about you, Tina?
You can find me at tinacesaward.com. It's the easiest place to find whatever I'm doing, and also on Twitter at TCWNYC.
Well, very good. We thank you both for joining us, and go ahead and make some money out there, would you? And and help the medium grow. And Goldie Chan, who's out she works very hard every day in this medium too, and she's out to make some money today too, I hope. So where can people find you and see all your great monetized content?
People can always find me on Twitter at Goldie Chan, and like I was saying last time, you can now find me on Pinterest at Goldie Pins.
I am following you on Pinterest. Did you see my organizational chart?
Yes, it was beautiful.
That was my first and only thing, but we won't get into my Pinterest rant again. But thank you everybody for joining us. This edition of Behind the Video is a wrap, and we'll see you next week. Stories for this episode were compiled by producer Jason Perrier. Follow him on Twitter at JASONPERRIER. Behind the Video is a production of Ape Digital Incorporated and the Independent Media Network LLC. All rights reserved.